I mean, it's very reasonable perhaps to you that Noah had superpowers and was able to build this extraordinary craft with 7 family members, but to me it's just not reasonable.
Almost everyone believes they understand the story of Noah's Ark. From childhood illustrations to Sunday school lessons, we are shown the same image: a massive wooden boat sailing heroically across a flooded world. The story feels simple, familiar, and settled. But what if that picture is wrong? Not slightly wrong, but fundamentally mistaken. When we read the book of Genesis carefully, slowly, and on its own terms, a shocking realization emerges. The Bible never actually describes Noah building a boat. It describes him building something else entirely. Something far more symbolic, sacred, and meaningful than a ship meant to sail. There is a reason the Bible gives us the details it does, and there is a reason it leaves others out. And when those details are understood the way ancient readers would have understood them, Noah's Ark transforms before our eyes. Before we go deeper into this hidden meaning, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Now, let us step inside the story. The story of the Ark begins in Genesis chapter 6, verse 11 to 12, where we are told that the earth was filled with violence and that all flesh had corrupted its way. This is not merely moral failure. In the language of Genesis, this is creation unraveling. The order God established in Genesis chapter 1 is breaking down, and chaos, the same chaos God once restrained, is rising again. Yet even here, judgment is not God's first response. In Genesis 6:8, we read that Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Before the floodwaters rise, grace appears. Before destruction comes, salvation is prepared. That salvation does not come as an escape route, a weapon, or a miracle rescue. It comes as a structure, designed by God, built by human obedience, and filled with life. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 14, God commands Noah, "Make thee an ark." The English word ark sounds nautical to modern ears, but the Hebrew word used here is teba. This is where everything changes. The Hebrew word teba does not mean boat, ship, or vessel. The Bible has other Hebrew words for ships, and none of them are used here. Teba means a box, a chest, or a container, specifically one designed to preserve life. Even more striking, this word appears only one other time in the entire Bible. In Exodus chapter 2, verse 3, the baby Moses is placed into a teba, made of reeds and sealed with pitch, then set upon the waters of the Nile. Moses' basket was not a boat. It had no steering, no sail, and no navigation. It was a floating container entrusted entirely to God. Noah's Ark was the same. When God gives Noah the design specifications in Genesis chapter 6, verse 14 to 16, certain things are conspicuously missing. There are no instructions for sails. There is no rudder. There is no mention of steering, rowing, or navigating. The ark has no prow, no stern, and no curved hull. This was not a design oversight. It was intentional. The ark was never meant to move through the flood. It was meant to rise above it. Once Noah entered the ark, he surrendered all control. Direction, destination, and timing belonged entirely to God. Salvation was not achieved by Noah's skill, but by his obedience. Genesis chapter 6, verse 16 tells us that the ark had one door, one opening above, and 3 levels. These details are not random. The single door meant there was only one way into safety. Genesis chapter 7, verse 16 tells us that it was the Lord himself who shut the door after Noah entered. Salvation was not something Noah sealed for himself. God secured it. Jesus later echoes this imagery in John chapter 10, verse 9, when he says, "I am the door. "By me if any man enter in, he shall be saved." The ark's door foreshadows this truth. The three levels of the ark are equally important. Throughout the Bible, sacred space is structured in three layers. In Genesis 1, creation itself is formed in three realms: the heavens, the earth, and the seas. God then fills each realm with living creatures. The ark mirrors this structure. It is a small version of creation itself, holding birds, animals, and humanity together in ordered harmony while chaos reigns outside. Genesis chapter 6, verse 14 also tells Noah to cover it within and without with pitch. The Hebrew word for pitch is kopher, and the verb to cover is kafar. This is crucial. Kafar is the same root word used throughout the Old Testament for atonement. It means to cover, to cleanse, to protect from judgment. The ark was not merely waterproofed, it was symbolically atoned for. In other words, the ark was sealed by atonement. Just as the blood on the doorposts in Exodus would later protect Israel from judgment, the ark was covered completely so that what was inside would be preserved. The Bible presents the Garden of Eden as sacred space. Genesis describes Eden as having layers: the outer world, the land of Eden, and the garden where God's presence dwelled. Adam was placed there as a priest-like guardian, tasked with caring for creation. The ark reflects this same pattern. Inside the ark are three levels filled with living creatures. Noah, like a new Adam, is placed inside to care for life and steward creation. Outside is death and disorder. Inside is life, order, and God's protection. The ark is a floating Eden, a temporary temple where God preserves creation so it can begin again. Remarkably, the Bible records only two structures that God directly commands to be built with precise instructions. The first is Noah's Ark. The second is the tabernacle in Exodus. The tabernacle is also arranged in three zones: the outer court, the holy place, and the Holy of Holies. Movement through these spaces represents drawing closer to God's presence. Inside the Holy of Holies sits another sacred container, the Ark of the Covenant. Though a different Hebrew word is used, its function is the same. It is a sacred box that holds the testimony of God's covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is made of wood and covered inside and out with gold, just as Noah's Ark was made of wood and covered inside and out with pitch. Even the lid of the Ark of the Covenant is called the kaperet, often translated as the mercy seat, and it comes from the same root word kafar, atonement. The measurements of the tabernacle echo the proportions of Noah's Ark. Later, Solomon's temple is built to a height of 45 feet, the same height as the ark described in Genesis chapter 6, verse 15. After the flood, Noah builds an altar in Genesis chapter 8, verse 20, just as the tabernacle and temple would later include altars for sacrifice. The pattern is consistent and unmistakable. Noah's Ark is the first portable sanctuary. Jesus himself points back to Noah in Matthew chapter 24, verse 37 to 39, warning that just as people were unprepared in Noah's day, they will be unprepared again. The message is not about fear, it is about readiness. Noah was saved not because he understood everything, but because he trusted God enough to build exactly as instructed. Had Noah redesigned the ark as a boat, he would not have survived. The lesson for us is profound. Salvation does not come through human wisdom or control. It comes through trusting God's design. Just as Noah was commanded to kafar, to cover, the ark, we are called to be covered by atonement. The ark lifted Noah above the waters of judgment, just as Christ was lifted up on the cross, so that others might be lifted into life. From Genesis to the Gospels, the message remains the same. God provides sacred space amid chaos, He preserves life through obedience, and he invites humanity inside. Noah's Ark was never a boat. It was a sanctuary, a temple, a living symbol of salvation. And it still speaks today.